Down looming on Capitol Hill over President Obama's executive action on immigration. This comes as a potential government shutdown looms if Congress cannot pass a spending bill by next week. Let's bring in Republican Congressman Ted Yoho. He's introduced a proposal challenging the president's right to use executive action on immigration. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Allison. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. So
That's
what
good.
exactly would your bill do to reverse the executive action on immigration?
The bill, the purpose of the bill was to stop the executive action, and it goes back to November 20th when he wrote the executive order. The whole purpose is to stop this so that we can fix immigration the way it's supposed to be.
And what does that look like? I mean, so how it would just stop it dead in its tracks, or how would you suggest fixing immigration in that case?
Well, the important thing is to stop it so that we can fix it. His action is not going to fix immigration. In fact, it's going to drive a wedge in this country and divide the country, and it's going to make the current situation worse. And so we want to stop that. The American people spoke loud and clear in November that they don't like the direction of the country, they don't like unilateral action, they don't like the dysfunction of Congress. And so waiting for the new Congress to come in is what we need to do. And, you know, this system's been broken for over 30 years. A couple more weeks is not going to make a difference, and we need to do it properly if we're going to do it.
Okay, we've had some pundits on this morning who say that your bill is basically just an exercise in futility because while you may be able to get the votes for it in the House, it would never pass the democratically led Senate. And so they're wondering if this is just political theater, or is it some sort of political therapy to make Republicans feel better, or what are you doing?
No, it's not. We don't introduce bills for political theater or symbolic measures. I mean, we could say that, heck, over the last 2 years that everything was done symbolically if you look at what was passed. But I guess there is some symbolism in this because this is about preserving the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 that says that Congress has the sole authority for naturalization. And that is symbolic to preserve the Constitution because that Constitution is a symbol around the world of what freedom really looks like. And I think this is not a partisan issue. This is something Republicans, Democrats need to come together, and this is a time to be Americans and do what's best for our country, not to unilaterally try to do an immigration reform that's not going to make the situation better.
And do you think that your bill could really pass the Senate?
I do. You know, when I look at things, we look at what we want to accomplish. We're going to pass it in the House. Harry Reid is going to have to decide if he wants to let the president trample on the Constitution and not follow the rule of law. And if that's what we're going to do as a nation, why have a Constitution? Why have Congress here? You know, we have a country and we go by the rule of law. It's time we start following that. And Harry Reid will have to make that decision. No, I'm not going to bring up this bill. We're going to do executive amnesty, and it's going to make the situation worse.
Democratic Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez says that you are basically misinterpreting the president's executive action. Here's her response to your bill.
The president did not change the law. The current law exists. What he did was say, you know, there are limited resources, and I want to use those resources on getting the bad guys out of our country first. And for those who have families, real family ties to this country, we're not going to go after you. He just prioritized what he wants to do, and he's allowed to do that.
Congressman, why not start with the criminals, as she's suggesting, rather than the families?
Ms. Sanchez is wrong. The current law says that if you're here illegally, if you're a person that's in the United States illegally, you are supposed to be deported. It says that. I mean, that's what the law says. Now, there's been individual cases of prosecutorial discretion that the president can use at his will, or the Attorney General or the Secretary of the Homeland Security. You can't do it for whole groups of people like he wants to do. So he, in essence, is rewriting the law with his pen, and our goal is to take the ink out of his pen.
So, Congressman, is the government going to shut down?
No, and that's the beauty of this bill, is it's not tied with any funding mechanism. This is a standalone bill that will stop this executive action. So, again, that the new Congress, when they get sworn in, we can address responsible immigration reform in this country the way it needs to be, so that we don't have this discussion in another 5, 10, 15 years. And then there'll be a separate bill on the funding, and that's something that we'll bring up this week. And, you know, the sentiment up here is nobody wants the government to shut down. We want to do it, pass a spending bill so that the government stays functional, and that's what the American people expect. And they spoke again loud and clear in November And
Yeah.
we're here. This is a new Congress. It's a new way of doing business. It's a new day. And this is a day to rebuild America. This starts now.
Congressman, while we have you, we want to ask you about another story in the news and something that happened on Capitol Hill. Some of your colleagues were expressing their frustration with the situation in Ferguson and what has gone on with the grand jury's decision, and they did so by striking the hands up, don't shoot posture. Perhaps we can show you a little montage of what some of your colleagues did on the floor.
Hands up, don't shoot.
This is a movement that will not dissipate. It will not evaporate.
If we don't affirm nonviolence, then who will?
Congressman, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that it's appropriate to express that frustration?
You know, people have the right of free speech in this country, and they're going to do what they feel in their heart they need to do. What happened in Ferguson was a tragedy, and it comes down to rule of law. We have to follow the rule of law, and that's why this immigration bill is so important. Back to the rule of law and following the Constitution. And the President's job is to follow the Constitution, Article 2, Section 3, that says he should take care in faithfully executing the law of the land, and we're going to hold him accountable for that.
Okay, Congressman Ted Yoho, thanks so much for joining us on New Day. Nice to see you.
Appreciate the opportunity.